It was a quiet evening. The sky was turning orange, and the sun was slowly going down. Judge Maya Thompson had just finished her long day at court. She wore a plain black coat and simple shoes. Her hair was tied back. She did not look like a judge right now, just like any other woman walking home. She liked walking. It helped her clear her mind. She had handled a very tough case today. A young man had been wrongly accused, and she had set him free. Justice had won today, but Maya was tired. As she walked down the empty street, a police car slowly came behind her. It stopped. A white police officer, Officer Daniels, stepped out. He looked at Maya with cold eyes. "Hey, stop right there," he shouted. Maya turned around, confused. "Is something wrong, officer?" she asked calmly. Daniels narrowed his eyes. "Don't play smart with me. What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Maya looked surprised. "I'm just walking home. I live nearby." He walked closer, his hand already near his gun. "Show me some ID." "Now." Maya reached into her bag slowly. "Of course I have it here," she said. But Daniels did not wait. He grabbed her arm roughly. "You think you're clever, huh? Dressed like this, walking around here." Maya tried to stay calm. "Officer, please. I am Judge Maya Thompson. If you check." Daniels pulled out handcuffs. "I don't care who you say you are. You look suspicious. You're under arrest." People began to gather. Some took out their phones. A few shouted. She didn't do anything, but Daniels ignored them. Maya didn't fight. She stood tall. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. Daniels laughed. "You people always say that." Her hands were now behind her back. The cold metal of the cuffs hurt her wrists. But what hurt more was the way he looked at her, with hate, not justice. As he pushed her into the police car, Maya looked straight into his eyes and said one sentence that changed everything. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." In the back of the car, Maya sat in silence. Her eyes looked out the window. She remembered her courtroom. The long wooden table. The American flag behind her seat. The respect in people's eyes when they called her Your Honor. Now she was sitting like a criminal, but she did not cry. She did not scream. Her face was calm. She knew the truth would speak for itself. Officer Daniels drove fast, his hands tight on the wheel. He kept looking at her through the mirror. "You'll regret lying to me," he said. Maya did not reply. At the police station, other officers looked confused. "What's the charge?" One of them asked. Daniels said, "Loitering. Suspicious behavior. Possible theft." "She had no stolen items?" the officer asked. "No, but she acted weird," Daniels said. Maya looked around. Some faces looked unsure. One young black officer stared at her. He looked like he had seen her before, but couldn't remember where. She was put into a small holding cell. The metal door shut with a loud sound. Maya sat on the bench and looked at the wall. Minutes passed, then hours. Nobody asked her real questions. Nobody checked her name. The station was busy, full of noise, but inside Maya's cell, it was quiet. Suddenly, she heard two officers talking outside. "Hey, have you heard about Judge Thompson? The one who freed that kid today?" "Yeah, she's tough. Real fair. Why?" "I think I've seen her before." "I mean, what if?" Their voices faded. Back in her cell, Maya smiled just a little. The truth was starting to knock on the door. Outside, videos of her arrest were already spreading online. People were talking. Some recognized her. Anger was rising. "How can a judge be arrested for walking home?" they asked. But Maya didn't know this yet. She just waited. Her hands still hurt from the cuffs, but her heart was strong. She whispered to herself, "Let them see who I am. Tomorrow." The cold metal bench felt hard beneath Judge Maya Thompson as she sat in the small jail cell. Her coat was now wrinkled, and her hands still hurt from the tight handcuffs. She looked around. The walls were gray, the floor dirty. The air smelled of sweat and dust. This was not a place for someone like her. But she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She sat quietly, her back straight, her face calm. Maya had always believed in justice. She had studied law for many years, worked hard, and earned the title of judge. People respected her in court. They listened when she spoke. But here, in this small cell, nobody cared who she was. Outside her cell, police officers walked past. Some looked at her and whispered. Others laughed like it was some kind of joke. "Hey, what's a lady like her doing here?" one officer asked. "She says she's a judge," another answered with a smirk. "A judge? Yeah, right." Someone laughed. "She probably watched too many movies." Maya heard everything. But she didn't react. She just looked at the wall in front of her. Calm. Silent. Strong. At the front desk, Officer Daniels was writing his report. His face was tight with pride. He thought he had done the right thing. She was acting suspicious. Didn't show ID quickly. Gave me attitude, he told another officer. But she wasn't carrying anything stolen. No drugs. No weapons, the officer asked. Daniels shook his head. Didn't need to. I could tell she was trouble. The younger officer didn't look convinced. Still, something feels off, he said softly. Hours passed. Inside the jail, Maya could hear shouting from other cells. Some women cried. Some cursed. One woman in the next cell asked, "Hey, what you in for?" Maya answered gently, "Walking home." The woman laughed loudly. "Damn, they arrest people for that now." Maya smiled a little. A young officer named Jason walked by. He looked at Maya carefully. He was new to the job and still believed in fairness. Her face looked familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen her before. He checked the arrest file. Name not confirmed, it said. Claiming to be a judge. Jason frowned. He looked again at her calm face, her eyes full of strength. He went to his computer and typed something. He searched for Judge Maya Thompson. A photo popped up. His eyes widened. "It's her," he whispered. Jason rushed to his supervisor. "Sir, I think there's a mistake," he said. The supervisor raised an eyebrow. "What now?" "The woman Daniels arrested. She's not lying. She really is Judge Thompson. Look." Jason showed the photo on the computer. The supervisor looked at it, then looked at Jason. "Are you sure?" "Yes, 100%. The supervisor stood up. "Why didn't Daniels check this? Why didn't anyone verify her ID?" Jason didn't answer. The truth was too clear. Back in her cell, Maya sat with her eyes closed. She was thinking about the boy she had helped in court earlier that day. He was only 16. The police had said he stole a phone, but there was no proof. The boy had cried in court. His mother too. She had let him go free. Now, just hours later, she was the one sitting behind bars. Life can be strange sometimes. Suddenly, the sound of keys turned in the lock. The cell door opened. It was Jason. He looked nervous. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I'm so sorry. We made a mistake." Maya looked up but said nothing. "Please come with me. They're reviewing everything right now. They know who you are." She stood up slowly, dignified, calm. No anger, no shouting, just quiet strength. As she walked out, the other women watched. One said, "You really a judge?" Maya turned and gave a small nod. "Yes." The woman smiled. "Then go show him who's boss." In the station's main room, the police chief had arrived. Officers were standing around awkwardly. Officer Daniels stood in the corner, pale and silent. When Maya entered, the room went quiet. The chief stepped forward. "Judge Thompson, I deeply apologize for this mistake." Maya looked at Daniels. Their eyes met. "I warned him," she said softly. But he didn't listen. Daniels opened his mouth but said nothing. The chief turned to his officers. We'll be handling this matter seriously. This kind of behavior is not acceptable." Maya didn't smile. She simply asked, "Can I go now?" "Yes, ma'am," the chief said. As she walked out of the station, her head held high, cameras were already flashing outside. News reporters were arriving. The story had started to spread. The judge who was arrested for walking. Morning came, but this day was different. The courtroom was full. People filled every seat. Some were reporters, some were lawyers, and some were just curious. News had already spread. A black female judge had been arrested by a white cop. The whole city was talking about it. Nobody knew what would happen next. Officer Daniels sat in the courtroom, looking around nervously. He had his uniform on, but his confidence was gone. His face was pale. His hands shook slightly. He didn't expect things to go this far. He thought she was just another black woman on the street. He didn't know she was Judge Maya Thompson. The court doors opened. 2 officers walked in, bringing Maya forward. She was not in her judge's robe today. She wore a plain blue shirt and black pants. Her hair was neat. Her face was calm, like always. But there was something powerful in her eyes, something unshakable. People whispered. Phones clicked. Some people stood without realizing it. They felt respect. The judge sitting at the front, an old friend of Maya, froze when he saw her. He blinked twice, confused. "Bring the defendant forward," the bailiff said. Maya stepped forward. The judge leaned in. "Name?" he asked, trying to follow the usual court steps. Maya looked up slowly. Her voice was clear. "I am Judge Maya Thompson." Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a pen. A reporter whispered, "She said she's a judge." The courtroom went silent. Even the air felt heavy. The sitting judge stood up. "Excuse me?" he asked. Maya nodded. "Yes, sir. I am Judge Maya Thompson. I was arrested yesterday by Officer Daniels while walking home." She turned toward Daniels. He did not ask questions. He did not check my ID. He saw my skin and made a choice. Daniels looked down. He had no words. The judge looked around the courtroom. "Officers, is this true?" The younger officer, Jason, stood up. "Yes, Your Honor. She told the truth from the start. We failed her." The judge sighed. His face showed pain and embarrassment. "Release her immediately." Maya's handcuffs were removed. The sound of the metal hitting the floor echoed through the courtroom. She rubbed her wrists gently, but she stood tall. The judge looked at her with respect. "We owe you more than just an apology." Maya shook her head. "I don't need apologies. I need change." The room stayed quiet. Her words were heavy and real. Outside the court, a crowd had gathered. News cameras, microphones, signs. Some people held posters that said, "Justice for Judge Maya. Stop racist policing." She's a judge, not a suspect. Maya stepped out. The crowd clapped. Some cheered. She raised her hand to speak. "I was arrested for walking. Not because I broke the law, but because of how I look," she said. A woman in the crowd shouted, "We believe you." Maya continued, "This isn't just about me. This is about every person who has been judged by their skin before their words, before their truth." People nodded. Some cried. Some filmed with shaking hands. I could have stayed quiet. I could have let this go. But if I do that, then this will keep happening. The crowd clapped again, louder this time. Back inside the building, Officer Daniels sat alone in a small room. The police chief stood over him. "You arrested a sitting judge," he said quietly, "without cause. Do you understand the damage you've done?" Daniels didn't answer. He looked like a man who had just realized he wasn't in control anymore. He was no longer the one with power. Later that day, Maya sat in her office. The judge's chair was still there. The books, the photos, the small plant on her desk, everything was the same. But something had changed. Now, the whole country knew her name. Some called her brave. Some called her a symbol. But Maya didn't want fame. She wanted justice, not just for herself, but for everyone who had been silenced. Her assistant knocked on the door. "There's a call for you, ma'am. It's the mayor." Maya smiled softly. "Tell him I'll call back. I need a few minutes to think." She looked at the photo on her desk, a picture of her younger self, wearing her graduation robe, her eyes full of dreams. "You did good," she whispered to the photo. "But we're just getting started." She leaned back in her chair, calm, strong, ready for what came next, because the world had seen who she really was. And now, the world now knew her name, Judge Maya Thompson. The video of her arrest had gone viral. Millions of people had watched it. The internet was filled with hashtags like #JusticeForMaya, #PowerInsolence, #RacismExposed. People were angry. But more than that, they were shocked. How can a respected judge be treated like this? If it happened to her, it can happen to anyone. The fallout had begun. At the police station, things were not the same anymore. The chief of police stood in front of cameras that morning. His face was tired. His voice was serious. "We are deeply sorry for what happened to Judge Maya Thompson," he said. "The department is reviewing the officer's actions. An internal investigation is now open." He didn't say Officer Daniels' name, but everyone already knew it. Inside the building, Daniels sat in a small room. His badge was placed on the table. His gun had been taken. His uniform felt heavy now. He stared at the wall. "What did I do?" he whispered to himself. People outside the court brought flowers, candles, and thank you cards for Maya. They stood silently. Some cried. Some prayed. Some brought their children and pointed toward the courthouse saying, "That's where the strong lady works." They were inspired. Not because she shouted, but because she didn't. Not because she fought with her fists, but because she stood with grace. Back in her office, Maya sat with her assistant and her lawyer. "We're receiving thousands of emails," her assistant said. "People want interviews, news channels, podcasts. Even schools are inviting you to speak." Maya shook her head. "I don't want fame," she said. "I want change." Her lawyer nodded. "Then we'll file a formal complaint. There has to be accountability." Maya looked out the window. "Do you think people will listen?" The lawyer smiled. "They're already listening. Now we just have to speak louder." That evening, Maya agreed to give one short interview. She sat in front of a camera, wearing a white blouse, her hair simple, her voice steady. "I was arrested because of my skin," she said. "But this is not just about me. This is about every person who has felt powerless in front of the law. I love the law," she continued. "I've given my life to it. But the law must protect everyone, not just those who look a certain way." The interviewer asked, "Do you want the officer to be punished?" Maya paused. "I want him to learn," she said. "I want the system to learn. Punishment is not enough. We need change." The next day, the police department held an emergency meeting. Many officers were afraid. Some were ashamed. A few were angry. "This is not who we are," said one captain. But another officer stood up. "Then why did nobody stop him?" Silence followed. That week, Daniels was suspended without pay. His file was under review. People demanded more. They wanted justice. But Maya didn't post angry tweets. She didn't shout at reporters. She went back to court. She returned to her judge's chair. And when she entered, everyone stood, not just because of her title, but because of who she was. Later, Maya visited a community center in the poorer part of town, a place where young kids studied after school. When she entered the room, the children clapped. One little girl ran up and hugged her. "You're our hero," the girl said. Maya bent down and smiled. "No, sweetheart," she said gently. "I'm just like you. But I want you to know this. Never let anyone tell you that you don't belong. You do." The room was full of hope. That night, Maya received a call. "Judge Thompson," said the voice on the phone, "we'd like you to speak at the National Justice Conference next month. The world needs to hear your story." Maya took a breath. "Thank you," she replied. "I'll be there." She hung up and sat in silence for a moment. Then she looked at her reflection in the mirror. Not angry, not broken, just stronger than ever. Outside, the wind blew softly through the city. But the storm of truth had already started. And Maya, she wasn't afraid of storms anymore. Officer Daniels sat alone in his small apartment. The TV was off. The lights were dim. His badge was gone. His job was on hold. His name was in the news, but not in a good way. He scrolled through his phone. Comment after comment filled the screen. Racist cop strikes again. How can someone like him still wear a badge? Judge Maya deserves better. Daniels threw the phone on the couch and rubbed his face with both hands. He was no longer the man in control. His mind kept going back to the moment he handcuffed Judge Maya. Her calm face, her quiet words, the way she looked at him, not with fear, but with disappointment. He didn't expect her to be a judge. He didn't expect the world to care. But they did. And now, he had to face his past. The next day, Daniels was called into a meeting with Internal Affairs. 3 officers sat across from him at a long table. "Sit down, Daniels," one of them said. "We've been looking through your record." Daniels nodded slowly. "I understand." The officer opened a folder. "You've had multiple complaints in the past. Most were closed quietly. But after this incident, we reopened them." Daniels looked down. He remembered those cases. Traffic stops, searches, arrests. Some people had said he was unfair. Some said he was aggressive. A few had even used the word racist. But back then, nobody listened. He was protected. Not anymore. After the meeting, Daniels walked out of the station. For the first time in years, he felt like just a regular man, not a police officer. No badge, no authority, just a man with a history catching up to him. He walked to a park nearby, sat on a bench, watched kids play. He felt empty. Later that evening, he visited his mother. She was an old woman now, with soft white hair and tired eyes. She opened the door and looked at him closely. "I saw the news," she said. "Sit." Daniel sat at the kitchen table. His mother made him tea. "I raised you to be better," she said softly. Daniels didn't answer. He looked at his hands. "Do you know what it feels like to be judged before someone knows you?" she asked. He shook his head. "I do," she said. "I'm married to a black man." "Your father?" Daniels looked up, confused. His mother nodded. "Before he passed, people used to stare at us. Whisper. Some refused to serve us. You were too young to notice." Daniels swallowed hard. "I thought you'd grow up different," she whispered. A long silence followed. Daniels stood up. "I messed up, Mom." She didn't argue. She just said, "Then fix it." Back in his apartment, Daniels opened his laptop. He searched for Maya Thompson. He watched her speech, her calm voice, her powerful words. She didn't scream. She didn't ask for revenge. She asked for change. The next morning, Daniels did something nobody expected. He requested a private meeting with Judge Maya Thompson. The request reached Maya's office. Her assistant read it aloud. "Officer Daniels has asked to meet in person. No media, no lawyers, just you and him." Maya thought for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Set it up." They met in a quiet room at the courthouse. No reporters, no cameras, just the two of them. Daniels walked in slowly, nervous. He took off his cap and held it in his hands like a child. "Thank you for meeting me," he said softly. Maya didn't smile. "Why are you here?" He sat down. His voice cracked. "Because I need to face what I did." He looked up. "When I arrested you, I didn't see a judge. I didn't even see a person. I saw a threat, and I don't know why. Maya's eyes didn't move. She stayed quiet. I've been thinking a lot, Daniels continued, about how I became this kind of cop, about the things I ignored, the people I hurt. He took a deep breath. I'm sorry. Maya finally spoke. Do you want me to forgive you? Daniels looked down. No, I just want to become better. Maya stood up slowly. Then start by listening, not just to me, but to every voice you've silenced. Daniels nodded. Maya added, real justice doesn't begin with arresting someone. It begins when we choose to see them as human. When Daniels left the room, he didn't feel lighter. But for the first time in years, he felt honest. And Maya. She looked out the window again. One more wall had cracked. Change had begun. The city had changed. Judge Maya Thompson's story had gone from a courtroom drama to a national movement. Her quiet strength had started something bigger than even she expected. People were no longer just angry. They were awake. From schools to courtrooms, from newsrooms to neighborhoods, people were talking. They weren't just asking what happened anymore. They were asking, how do we fix it? In Maya's office, letters covered the desk. Some were from students. Some were from police officers. Some came from across the country. One read, Dear Judge Maya, I'm a 14-year-old girl. I saw your story. I want to be like you. You made me believe I matter. Another said, I've been a cop for 20 years. You made me think about the things I've ignored. I'm sorry. I want to be part of the solution. Maya read each one carefully. She smiled softly, not because she was proud of herself, but because she saw hope. That weekend, something big happened. Thousands of people gathered in the city square for a peaceful march. It wasn't just about Maya anymore. It was about everyone who had been unseen, unheard, and unfairly treated. They held signs. I am more than my skin. We need justice, not just laws. Maya spoke. Now we rise. There were teachers, students, parents, and even police officers walking side by side. At the front of the march, Maya stood tall. She wore a white blouse and a long coat. Nothing fancy, just honest. Beside her walked a teenage boy named Malik. He had once been stopped and searched without reason. Now he was walking next to a judge. I never thought I'd be here, Malik said. Maya looked at him. Then imagine where else you can go. At the end of the march, a small stage was set up. Maya stepped up. The crowd quieted. Cameras rolled. But Maya didn't look at them. She looked at the people. Her voice was steady. I was arrested on a street I walk every day. Not because of what I did, but because of how I look. She paused. But I am not the only one. People nodded. Some cried. This movement is not about making people afraid, she said. It's about making people aware. About building something better. Together. The crowd clapped. Some shouted, Maya, Maya. She raised her hand to quiet them. This is not about me. This is about you. Your voice. Your truth. Your rights. Behind the stage, reporters were already typing. One headline read, Judge becomes voice of a nation. Another said, From arrest to awakening, Maya inspires a new America. After the rally, Maya was invited to speak in Washington, D.C. at the National Justice Summit. Leaders from every state were attending. People who had once ignored stories like hers now wanted to listen. Her assistant held her pack. This movement, it's growing fast, the assistant said. Are you ready? Maya smiled. I don't know if I'm ready, but I know it's time. At the summit, the hall was full of important people. Judges, senators, civil rights leaders. When Maya took the stage, the room went silent. She didn't use big words. She didn't try to impress anyone. She spoke in simple, powerful English, the same voice that had reached hearts across the country. She said, Justice should not depend on how rich you are, or what color your skin is, or what uniform you wear. Justice should begin with respect, with seeing each other as people first. She ended with a promise. I was silent once. Never again. And I ask you, don't be silent either. When she stepped down, the entire room stood. They clapped, not because of her title, but because of her truth. Back in her hotel room, Maya sat quietly. She looked out the window. She thought about that night on the street, the cold metal of the handcuffs, the silence of the police car, the fear she felt. Then she looked at where she was now. She had turned that pain into power. She had turned that fear into fuel. And the movement, it had just begun. The courtroom was silent. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that feels heavy, strong, like something important is about to happen. Judge Maya Thompson sat at the bench, her black robe flowing gently as she moved. But this time, she wasn't there to judge someone else. This time, it was her case, and the case of everyone who had ever been stopped, searched, or arrested without cause. The case against Officer Daniels had finally reached trial. He was being charged with abuse of power, racial profiling, and unlawful arrest. His past actions, once ignored, were now being revealed in full detail. The courtroom was packed. Every seat was taken. Cameras were outside. Protesters and supporters stood on opposite sides of the courthouse lawn. Some wanted punishment. Some wanted peace. But everyone wanted justice. Daniels sat in the defendant's seat, no longer in uniform. His face looked older now, not because of time, but because of truth. His lawyer argued that he had made a mistake, that he didn't recognize Maya, that he felt threatened. But the facts were clear. He had arrested a woman who did nothing wrong. He had ignored her identity, her rights, and her voice. And now, that voice had echoed across the nation. Maya wasn't there to punish him. She had made that clear from the start. But she was there to make sure the system was held accountable. The jury came back with a verdict. Guilty. Daniels bowed his head. Some people in the courtroom clapped quietly. Others just closed their eyes. The judge, not Maya this time, but another respected voice in the city, gave the sentence. 2 years of community reform work. Mandatory racial bias training. A permanent mark on his record. No longer allowed to wear the badge. It wasn't a harsh punishment, but it was a loud message. Outside, reporters rushed to Maya. "Do you think justice was served?" one asked. She paused, then answered softly. "Justice isn't just about punishing people. It's about waking up the system, and I think it's finally waking up." Later that week, Maya returned to the courthouse steps. A crowd waited for her. Children, parents, lawyers, activists, teachers, former police officers. She didn't give a speech. Instead, she held up a copy of the new law the city had just passed. The Thompson Act, a new bill that would train every officer in bias awareness, body cam transparency, and community respect. The law had been named after her, not because she asked for it, but because she earned it. That night, Maya walked alone through the street where she had been arrested months ago. It was quiet now. No cameras, no sirens, just the soft sound of her heels on the pavement. She paused at the corner where it happened, the spot where the police car had stopped her, the spot where she had once felt small. Now she stood tall. Suddenly, a little voice broke the silence. "Judge Maya." She turned. A young girl stood with her mother, waving. The girl wore a shirt that said, "My voice matters." Maya smiled, walked over, knelt down. "Do you want to be a judge too?" Maya asked. The girl nodded. "I want to be strong like you." Maya looked at her kindly. "You already are." As the night breeze moved gently through the city, Maya looked up at the stars. She didn't feel angry. She didn't feel afraid. She felt free, because justice was no longer just an idea. It had finally been delivered. Months had passed since the courtroom doors closed behind Officer Daniels. The news had moved on. The headlines had faded. But for Judge Maya Thompson, the real work had just begun. She now walked into schools instead of courtrooms, into community centers instead of press stages, into youth programs instead of interviews. She had chosen something even bigger than justice. She had chosen to build the future. In a small classroom in the heart of the city, a group of teenagers sat in a circle. These kids had seen too much: poverty, violence, fear, silence. But today, they sat with notebooks. They were part of the Voices program, started by Maya. The goal was simple: teach kids how to speak, stand, and be heard. Not just in protests, but in life. Maya stood at the front. No robe, no bench, just her, in a blue shirt and jeans, holding a pen and a calm smile. "Okay," she said. "Today we're talking about truth. What does it mean to you?" A boy named Jalen raised his hand. His voice was soft. "Truth is saying what you feel, even if it scares you." Maya nodded. "And do you feel scared sometimes?" He looked down. "All the time." Maya walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "But you still spoke. That's what makes you strong." Later that afternoon, Maya got a call from a city councilwoman. "Your Voices program is working," she said. "Crime is down in those neighborhoods. Kids are staying in school. You're changing lives." Maya smiled, but her answer was simple. "I'm not changing them. They're just being seen for the first time." One evening, Maya visited a prison. Not for a case, for a conversation. There she found Daniels, now teaching a course to young inmates about law, power, and mistakes. He looked thinner, more thoughtful. They shook hands quietly. "I never imagined we'd meet like this," he said. "Neither did I," Maya replied. "But I'm glad we did." After the meeting, Daniels walked her out. "I'm not the same man I was," he said, "but I'm still trying to fix what I broke." Maya nodded. "That's all anyone can do," she said. Then she added something she never thought she'd say: "Keep going." Back in her apartment, Maya sat at her desk, writing letters, not to judges or reporters, but to kids. To girls in small towns, to boys in broken homes, to teachers, moms, fathers, and quiet dreamers. Her message was the same. You are not invisible. You are not weak. You matter. One day, as Maya left her building, a woman stopped her on the sidewalk. "You're Judge Thompson, right?" she asked. Maya smiled. "I am." The woman pulled out a photo of her daughter in a graduation gown. "She watched your video. She listened. Now she's going to law school." Maya held the photo for a long time, then handed it back, eyes soft. "That's the kind of justice I believe in." As Maya walked away, the city lights blinked softly above her. No sirens, no headlines, just hope, steady, quiet, and rising. Because change isn't loud. It's every small step, every kind word, every hand held out instead of pushed away.